Hello everyone, we are group 4. The topic we chose to do the presentation today is right to privacy. First, let's define what the right to privacy is. As stated in chapter 4, the right of privacy is the right implied by the freedom in the Bill of Rights that grants individuals a degree of personal privacy upon which government cannot lawfully intrude. The right gives individuals a level of free choice in areas such as reproduction and intimate relations. Specifically, today we're going to talk about the right to privacy of contraception and abortion. Contraceptives was not always an option for everyone. In fact, they were prohibited. In 1965, in Connecticut, the case Griswold and visits Connecticut involved a Connecticut Comstock law which prohibited any person to use any kind of drugs or medical instrument to prevent conception. Griswold opened a birth clinic trying to change the law that prohibited the use of contraceptive. In the case, the Supreme Court ruled that a state's ban on the use of contraceptive violated the right to marital privacy and could not be enforced against married people. Further, this right to privacy is fundamental when it concerns the actions of married couples because it is of such a character that it cannot be denied without violating those fundamental principles of liberty and justice which lie at the base of our civil and political institutions. This Supreme Court decision overturned the Connecticut law that prohibited contraceptive counseling as well as the use of contraception. The ruling recognized that the Constitution does not explicitly protect one's general right to privacy. However, the Bill of Rights created the zones of privacy into which the government could not interfere. It essentially paved the road for the reproductive privacy and freedoms that we are in place today. The case of Roe versus Wade involved a woman named Norma McCorvey, known in her lawsuit under Jane Roe, who is 1969 became pregnant with her third child. McCorvey wanted an abortion, but she lived in Texas, where abortion was illegal except when necessary to save the mother's life. She then filed a lawsuit in U.S. federal court against her local district attorney, Henry Wade, alleging that Texas abortion laws was unconstitutional. This case decision was a landmark decision of the U.S. Supreme Court in which the court ruled that the Constitution of the United States protects a pregnant woman's liberty to choose to have an abortion without excessive government restriction. It struck down many U.S. state and federal abortion laws and prompted an ongoing national debate in the United States about whether and to what extent abortion should be legal, who should decide the legality of abortion, what methods the Supreme Court should use in constitutional adjudication, and what the role of religious and moral views in the political sphere should be. This case, Roe v. Wade, also reshaped American politics, dividing much of the United States into abortion rights and anti-abortion movement, while activating grassroots movements on both sides. It's also proved that this right is not absolute and must be balanced against the government's interest in protecting women's health and protecting prenatal life. The court resolved this balancing test by tying state regulation of abortion to the 3 trimesters of pregnancies. During the first trimester, government could not prohibit abortion at all. During the second trimester, government could require reasonable health regulations, and during the third trimester, abortion could be prohibited entirely, so long as the law contained exception for cases when they were necessary to save the life of or health of the mother. The court classified the right to choose to have an abortion as fundamental, which required courts to evaluate challenge abortion laws under the standard, the highest level of judicial review in the United States.
Hi everyone, my name is Sarah Collins and I will be going over the Planned Parenthood versus Casey case. 19 years after Roe v. Wade, the United States Supreme Court reevaluated the constitutional protection afforded to women's rights to choose. Planned Parenthood versus Casey legal case decided that by the U.S. Supreme Court in 1992 that redefined several provisions regarding abortion rights as established in Roe v. Wade. The Pennsylvania Abortion Control Act of 1982, brought by Governor Robert Casey, imposed 5 restrictions on abortion providers and women seeking abortions. 1. Women must give informed consent. 2. Women must receive state-published information regarding abortions and wait 24 hours before performing the abortion. 3. For minors, parents must give informed consent. 4. Married women must sign a statement saying they have notified their husbands. 5. Providers must keep records and report information of the abortions. Before any of these laws could take effect, Planned Parenthood brought suit against the governor, protesting the constitutionality of the act. In a plurality opinion, the Supreme Court affirmed the essential holding of Roe v. Wade, that women have the right to obtain an abortion prior to fetal viability, but rejected Roe's trimester-based framework for allowing states to curb the availability of abortion in favor of a more flexible medical definition of viability. The decision restated that the source of the privacy right that undergirds women's right to choose abortion derives from the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, placing individual decisions about abortion, family planning, marriage, and education within a realm of personal liberty which the government may not enter. The judgment also revised the test that courts use to scrutinize laws relating to abortion, moving to an undue burden standard. A law is invalid if its purpose or effect is to place substantial obstacles in the path of a woman seeking an abortion before the fetus attains viability. Ultimately, the court upheld all the provisions of the Pennsylvania Act under attack except for the requirement of spousal notification. Many suits brought after Planned Parenthood versus Casey centered on the meaning of undue burden.
Another great fight in the right to privacy was case Whole Woman's Health versus Hellerstedt. In this case, a question was asked: should a court's substantial burden analysis consider the extent to which laws restrict access to abortion services actually serve the government's stated interest in promoting health? In 2013, the Texas legislature passed a bill, House Bill 2, or HB 2, which contains several provisions related to abortions. The petitioners are a group of abortion providers who sued the state of Texas seeking to invalidate those provisions. The petitioners argued that HB 2 denied equal protection, unlawful delegated lawmaking authority, and constituted arbitrary and unreasonable state action. The U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit affirmed the district court's dismissal of the equal protection, unlawful delegation, an arbitrary and unreasonable state action claims, and partially reversed the injunction because the plaintiffs failed to show that they placed a substantial burden in the path of a woman seeking an abortion. In 2015, the case was eventually granted to be elevated to the Supreme Court. The arguments began on March 2nd, 2016, led by Stephanie Toti and Donald B. Verrilli, Jr. for the petitioners and Scott A. Keller for the respondents. Then on June 27, 2016, a decision was made. HB 2 imposed an undue burden on women seeking a legal abortion, thus is unconstitutional, in a majority opinion 5-3 decision for Whole Women's Health.
Hello, my name is Jose Gonzalez, and I'll be going over the Lawrence versus Texas. This goes back to 1986. The Supreme Court had upheld Georgia's anti-sodium law in Brawler versus Hartwigs. The Brawler case framed the issue as if homosexuals had the right to engage in sodium. The court said no. Ever since that happened, gay activists have been trying to challenge against that law, and finally happened in 2003 with Lawrence versus Texas. After receiving reports of a weapon disturbance, officer entered the house of John Larynx. An officer claims that Larynx was engaged in anal sex with a man named Tyler Grimmer. The men were arrested and charged under the tax anti-sodium law, which prevents oral or anal sex between two members of the same sex.